day, everyone. I am tasked to report about what is death penalty and its definition, and why was the death penalty abolished here in the Philippines. Death penalty: the plummeting human rights situation in the Philippines got even worse during the Duterte administration, as the government began considering bills to reinstate the death penalty. The move by the House Committee on Justice came a week after President Rodrigo Duterte used his State of the Nation address to call for capital punishment by lethal injection for drug offenders. For years, the Philippines put people to death, particularly in cases of so-called heinous crimes. But President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, under the pressure of the Catholic Church, abolished the death penalty in 2006. Human Rights Watch opposes the death penalty in all circumstances because it is inherently cruel and irreversible. So the reason why death penalty was abolished in the Philippines to begin with is, number one, it is irreversible and mistakes can happen. So the execution is the ultimate irrevocable punishment. The risk of executing an innocent person can never be eliminated, considering how flawed implementation of justice in the law enforcement here in our country. So that's the reason why, and it's among the many reasons as to why death penalty was abolished here in the Philippines, as last seen on 2006, which was the last year where death penalty was imposed as a capital punishment of our penal system. So, uh, death penalty does not deter crime. Countries that execute commonly cite the death penalty as a way to deter people from committing crime. However, this is not the case because, as we have seen in many cases, and since Philippines is not just an isolated case, but other countries as well, wherein we were able to see how, instead of curtailing or deterring crime or using death penalty as a crime deterrent, it only acts as an agent in order to propagate the malefactors in the society. So that's the reason why it does not deter crime, as contrary to most people believe, or contrary to popular belief. So that's the reason why the retaliatory system or retaliatory aspect of justice, which is manifested through the imposition of death penalty as a capital punishment, was abolished. Rather, the justice system resorted to what we call as restorative justice, wherein instead of punishing the offenders of what is seen as an irrevocable act, offenders are then punished in a way that they will be able to prove themselves worthy trust by the government, as seen in their performance within the penitentiary institutions.
The Philippines has had a history of invoking and scraping capital punishment since the end of the World War II. So here is the Philippine timeline in invoking and scraping death penalty. Between 1946 and 1965, 35 people were executed, mainly convicted by senseless depravity or extreme criminal perversity. During Marcos' years, deterrence became the official justification for the imposition of the death penalty. The number of capital crimes increased, and such crimes were made punishable by death through laws and decrees during the Marcos period. Similar to the reasons for the imposition of capital punishment during the colonial periods, the death penalty during the Marcos regime was imposed to quell rebellion and social unrest. Now, after Marcos was deposed in 1986 through EDSA People Power Revolution, Corazon Aquino became the new president of the Philippines. During her term, the death penalty was abolished under the 1987 Constitution. The Philippines became the first Asian country to abolish the death penalty for all crimes. All death sentences were reduced to the reclusion perpetua or life imprisonment. However, on 1993, there is a series of high-profile crimes during this period, which created public impression that heinous crimes were on the rise. The Ramos administration reimposed the death penalty by virtue of Republic Act number 7659 in December 1993, to address the rising criminality and incidence of heinous crimes.
So it was expressly stipulated in Republic Act 7659 that the crimes punishable by death are heinous for being grievous, odious, and hateful offences in which by reason of their inherent or manifest wickedness, viciousness, atrocity, and perversity are repugnant and outrageous to the common standards and norms of decency and morality in a just, civilized, and ordered society. So as you can see in your screen, the prominent heinous crimes that the Republic Act 7659 strictly prescribed were treason, piracy, qualified bribery, parricide, murder, infanticide, kidnapping, and serious illegal detention, robbery with homicide, plunder, certain violations of the Dangerous Drug Act, and carnapping.
On March 20, 1996, Republic Act number 8177 was enacted. This is a law amending or prescribing death penalty by lethal injection for offenders convicted of heinous crimes. Between 1999 and 2000, during the time of former President Joseph Estrada, 7 inmates were put to death. The first to be executed was Leo Echegaray on February 9, 1999, and the last was Alex Bartolome on January 4, 2000. They were both convicted of the crime rape. On June 2006, Republic Act number 9346, or an act prohibiting the imposition of the death penalty in the Philippines, was signed into law by former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. According to her, the death penalty should be abolished because it had not proven to be a deterrent to crime and had become a dead letter law.
In view of the enactment of the said act, the death penalty may not be imposed. Therefore, Articles 81 to 85 of the Revised Penal Code have no application. As provided in Section 1 of RA 9346, the imposition of penalty of death is hereby prohibited. According to all other laws, executive orders, decrees, insofar as they impose death penalty, are hereby repealed and amended accordingly. So under RA 7659, an act imposing death penalty on specific crimes, heinous crimes, which were previously discussed by my co-presenters. So the reason why this act was created was due to the alarming upsurge of such crimes, which has resulted not only in the loss of human lives and wanton destruction of property, but also affected the nation's efforts towards a sustainable economic development and prosperity. The next law repealed by 93, RA 9346 was RA number 8177. So it was the previous law on death penalty was amended by this law. So previously, death penalty, the prescription of death is by lethal injection, which was also discussed by my co-presenters. Under Section 2 of RA 9346, in lieu of death penalty, the following shall be imposed. So the penalty of reclusion perpetua when the law violated makes use of the nomenclature of the penalties of the Revised Penal Code, or the penalty of life imprisonment when the law violated does not make use of the nomenclature of the penalties of the Revised Penal Code. In short, Section 2 of RA 9346, or the Act itself, downgraded the penalty of death to imprisonment of 20 years and 1 day to 40 years and life imprisonment. Section 3 of RA 9346 provided that person convicted of offenses punished with reclusion perpetua or whose sentences will be reduced to reclusion perpetua by reason of this act shall not be eligible for parole under Act number 4180, which is known also as the Indeterminate Sentence Law as amended. Section 4 and 5 merely talks about the publication and the effectivity